There is only one reality, which we experience as this consciousness which is hearing my words right now. There is only one reality, eternal, happy, beautiful, intelligent, and it is that which is hearing my words right now. And because it is the only reality, we all share it. We all are the same consciousness. And this experience is love.
All right, Francis Lucille, thank you so much for being on the show with us. You have your awesome YouTube channel there, focused on non-duality. And there's a lot of people out there that know who you are, but I'm sure for some of our audience members, they might be unfamiliar with some of your work. One of the places we like to begin is kind of with our guest and their backstory. Maybe you could tell everyone a little bit about your story, how you got to where you are, and what you're talking about now online on YouTube.
I was miserable. In spite of having achieved everything my parents and society had assured me would make me happy. I was married, had a child, had a good job, 2 cars in the driveway, you know, the European dream. And in spite of that, at some point I hit the bottom. And a few months later, I had a stop by in Paris. I went to the Latin Quarter where I used to be as a student, went to a bookstore, and a book by Krishnamurti attracted my attention. I went to a bistro nearby. 3 hours later, I had read the book and I bought all the books by the same author, and that's how it started. Then later on, so it started with Krishnamurti and the Buddhist, Advaita scripture, Hinduist scripture, etc. I was on the path, and then I wanted to meet someone who would live it. I was just curious, you know, how does such a person looks like? Does it levitate? Does it perform miracles, etc.? I had all these questions. And a guy whom I had met attending meetings with various teachers who once told me, "Oh, I just met your teacher. I just met the one you're looking for." And it's strange because he was true. So I met this gentleman. After our first meeting, I didn't know whether he was enlightened, realized, whatever. But I know after leaving him, I had a 3-hour drive. I had time to think about what had taken place. And the feeling I had is that I would like him to be my friend. Yeah. And that's how our relationship started. You know, he was my teacher, became a close friend, spent a lot of time with him for many years, for 10 years. Then he asked me to move to America, and then he passed away in 1998. So that's the story. When I was in America, already when I was in France, I was teaching the meditations that my teacher had told me, and I was sending all my students to him. I was doing that just as a hobby. And then when I moved to America, he had asked me to move to America. People in the Bay Area in San Francisco asked me, because they heard that I was doing that in France, and I had a long acquaintance with him. They asked me to do the same, which I did. And then I put a book on tape out of conversation we had with a friend. And I got invited to speak in many places, and that's how it really started in America. I had a book on tapes, business, and this friend told me, "Oh, why don't you record our conversations, and what do you put a book out?" So I did. It was not a commercial success at all. But some people invited me to come and to speak, and that's how it started. And then I had to stop my business, and I've been doing that here in America since 1995. So it's been a long time.
Mm. One of the interesting things that kind of stuck out about your story was the place where you came to with your suffering, where you took some actionable steps to kind of like seek out what was going on there. What is it with people, that don't ever get there? They're suffering their whole lives, but they make a choice to just continue on and to never actually take an action or a step to, like, from your perspective, what do you see as the block there? What stops people from making the choice to kind of take a close look at things?
I don't know. Perhaps it's a mystery. We don't know. The destiny of each individual is different. What I know that in my case, I hit rock bottom because I realized that everything I had achieved so far was not making me happy. I didn't like my job. I was miserable in my job. I was getting a divorce. And at the time, I even was sick. I had a long illness of hepatitis. And at some point, I was an atheist, And at some point, I said, "Oh God, if you exist, it's time to show up," in the depths of my despair. And
powerful prayer. That's a powerful prayer, I think.
Yes, and that's how 2 months later, this encounter with this book took place. You see, nothing happens by chance.
So what was it about the first book that you picked up? If you could give a title, that'd be great. But what was it about this book, or what did you find within this book that resonated with you, that got the wheels turning?
I think because I was an atheist, I was a scientist, and I was very square, you see. So religion for me was taboo. During my childhood, my parents were atheists too, so the G word was worse than the F word.
Right.
You see? So, and so I couldn't have access directly Indian sages such as Ramana Maharshi, because it would have been too religious for me. Krishnamurti was different in that sense that he was saying, "Oh, religions, forget about them, they're all crooks," basically. So that was my type of guy, if you will.
He's like Osho a little bit in that way, like subverting, constant subverting of things.
So he was in India they call that the Upaguru. He is the stepping stone to us, because in a sense he was petting my ignorance, in the back, but at the same time he was telling me of a different dimension, and that's what attracts me. It resonates with me. He had the experience of the infinite. But then I discovered later on that there were better sources of truth than Krishnamurti.
Like what?
Like what? Like what?
Like my teacher,
Oh, right,
Huh?
yeah. And that's an
and
interesting.
possibly, and other teacher, other people I've met.
It's so tailor-made, your teacher, because right away the idea that you came back and you went, well, I want this person to be my friend. Some people, I got to imagine that some people, the fit for them is a teacher that's a teacher, and that some people, the fit for them is some kind of systematic thing. And then the fit for you is this guy, I want to be my friend. And then over a prolonged friendship, the teaching gets through. And I'm kind of curious where the transition from that, like, I don't know anything about your teacher. I know some relationship between you and Rupert Spirit James mentioned. But I'm fascinated by, like, some people seem to be designated or a good fit as teacher or and in all types of different ways. Your teacher seems like his method came through in friendship, and some people's method
No,
is through
no. He
words.
was a regular teacher. He was both my teacher and my friend. So
Right.
it was a different type of connection because there was a friendship, which means a love, but at the same time, I felt an infinite respect for him because the truth was speaking to him. So it was at the same time very close to my heart, and at the same time, I felt an infinite respect.
Is that important in the teacher dynamic? That kind of respect? Maybe that sounds like a kind of a stupid question, but I'm saying it seems to play a consistent role in teachers or facilitators of whatever the path is. That can you talk a little bit more about what that respect is? Do you have students to this day, like as a teacher yourself? What role does respect play in all that?
From the vantage point of the teacher, you are not a teacher. There is a teacher only from the vantage point of the student. From the vantage point of the so-called teacher, everybody is the same consciousness. Everybody is God. So the teacher, the so-called teacher, sees God in all beings. So the teacher doesn't feel he's a teacher. In a
Right.
sense, the teacher comes when a question is asked, for instance, or when the circumstances required, just as the friend comes out when circumstances require it. The father or the mother comes out when required. But with your child, you're not always a father. You are the friend, you are the teacher, you are the father, you are many things. And so it's the same in a relationship, but the spiritual teacher that comes out is that aspect of it that inspire the highest respect. Because you feel the presence, you feel that that which speaks through this human body mind is a different dimension.
When it comes to the teachings, what are the highlights? What are like the major overarching teachings that are getting taught within your community and what you've learned from your teacher now that you're passing down? What are the main
Well,
concepts?
actually, that which is passed down is not concepts or techniques, or these are the traditions, if you will, with a small t. There are many traditions with a small t, techniques, ways to point at the absolute. But that which really constitutes the real tradition, the one with a capital T, is beyond words. And this one is common to all authentic traditions. In other words, it's a common ground of Jesus' teachings, of Buddha's teaching, of the Taoist teachings, of Meister Eckhart, of Rumi's, of all the sages, at all times and all over the world have shared the same experience. It's the means that were used for the sharing that were different and that would adapt to the circumstances. Just as, I don't care very much about the tradition I came from, which is called Advaita Vedanta. Actually, my teacher was at the crossroad of three traditions, Hatha Yoga, Kashmirian Shaivism, but the primary was Advaita Vedanta. That doesn't matter because these are teaching techniques, you see. And actually, each teacher adapts its technique to the student and to the age at which he lives and they live. So otherwise you become a fundamentalist. You forget the truth and you stick to the letter. You forget the spirit, right? And you stick to the letter.
So we met this guy one time. We interviewed him, and he was a seasoned teacher in the field of. Sorry for interrupting. I just think that this could be interesting. He was like a seasoned sort of teacher, and in the culture of spirituality, retreats, and all that stuff. And at the end, we were like, well, what's the overarching non-fundamentalist, non-systematic answer then? Like, what is the thing that you want to convey? And he was like, get out. Don't be spiritual. Like at the end of the day, he had this kind of like shaking off of everything. And I feel like that's for somebody like yourself that's got all this experience in this world. What excites you at this point? There's YouTube channels that their whole thing, video after video, is about pointing towards enlightenment and awakening, and that's great. And then you go a couple of channels over and there's some guy that's interested in old records and he's reviewing records after record, or an eclectic array of interests in this world. But from somebody who is at the zenith of this like whole path, what is fundamental for all of, what gets you excited at this point? You still like talking about enlightenment? Do you still like talking about all this stuff?
Yes. I am like the bird singing his song in the woods, and he doesn't care where nobody listens, where one person listens or 20. And the difference between me and the birds is that this bird here sings only if there is an interest in what the bird has to say. If there is no interest in what I may have to say, there is no interest here in speaking or doing anything. But if there is a need, a question, that's my vocation. You see, that's. And besides, there is something important. People believe that if you liberate yourself from the burden of the belief to be a separate person, right? If you liberate that, then automatically you are going to be a teacher. Not at all. Most people, they go free and they do something else. They are interested in gardening, or they are interested in doing mathematics.
They're a merchant, for Pete's sake. They're anything.
To be a normal guy, a normal person, just being happy. And by happy, I mean without worries.
Nobody asked the Buddha or Jesus. Like, nobody went up to Jesus and was like, Jesus, what do you do when everyone's not looking? Like, and he was like, well, thank God somebody finally asked. I collect, whatever, what I mean? I collect seashells. Check out my seashells.
He was a regular guy. You see?
Right. And we're all regular guys. And that's why I kind of like it. It seems a little bit, I don't think it's common for people to understand at the end of the day, like, some people maybe not so comfortable seeing their teacher as a friend, but the person that you're familiar with, and maybe we can get into that or not or whatever. I actually saw a clip of Rupert Spira, and he was talking to somebody, and she was having some hang up, and he goes, hey, I want to be your friend at the end of the day. Like, you even gonna have to let go of this image of me as a teacher. And I feel like that reflects a little bit of what we're saying here. But nevertheless, the subject is profoundly interesting, and that's it is interesting in itself that after so much time, it remains interesting to talk about enlightenment and awakening. And
It is not interesting. When I am on my own, I I do what is required. You see, I just do gardening, hanging out with my wife, cooking stuff, taking care of my health. I don't think about my teaching. You see,
Right.
unless I have to fly somewhere, I need to organize. You see, yes, but I don't read anymore any spiritual books.
yeah. I've seen people burn their old spiritual book. Like some people, they have a
You
revelation and
see,
they're like, I got rid of all of them.
but if someone asks me questions, for instance, the other day I was reading a poem by Rumi, just opening a book, and then it was so beautiful. The emotion came to me. It was a tear in my eyes. You
Oh, that's
see,
beautiful.
that's it's normal. You're a human being, you see, but you have all these emotions. But I'm not seeking it.
Yeah. Oh, even your example of the gardener, like, let's just say, as recklessly as we can, let's say you are enlightened and you're gardening and you're doing it authentically. There's some guy out there gardening because his coach told him gardening makes you a better athlete, and to this day he's gardening and sort of frustrated while he does it. Like, there's so many things that you can do because it's not an authentic pursuit. And maybe an aspect of this enlightenment awakening stuff is like, you're going to do everything the same normal, but at the end of the day, it's from a different place. It's from a non-shackled it's from like maybe a non-shackled place.
Hmm.
Is that poignant at all, or was that just a
No, I think
ramble?
it's a good,
That,
good
that,
little point.
that's the idea. The idea is to be free from worries, right?
Yeah.
And then life becomes a celebration. We don't need to, people, they expect that life is going up, that I get enlightened. It's like I've smoked a big joint like that, and so I say, wow, all of a sudden. That's not like that. That's not natural. You see what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Life is different. It's every day. It's every day. You go to your garden, you look at your roses. Oh, this one has come up today. Or this one is infected with insects.
Yeah.
I'm going to. So it's just it would be good enough for people if they could only liberate themselves from worries. Not.
It's so funny, the joint example, because everybody's got their own flavor, and we interviewed one person that was like, "I'm high all the time," like they were not advocating weed. They were literally saying like, I'm awakened, and so it's like I'm high all the time," is their approach. And then there's like some stoner to the side going, "Yeah, but I'm actually high all the time. I smoke weed, and that's my answer." And then there's the thing that you're saying. It's like, which I understand the point. I don't want to miss the point, which is a good one, which is. You don't have to, it's silly maybe to think that it's a eternally stoned high all the time. Like that's a state
It's crazy.
of being.
It's a state because every state that has a beginning
Yeah.
has an end.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love
then
that. It's so grounded.
And sometimes there is a price to pay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
For
think
the
that
high.
part of that comes in is like, some of these things maybe take some time to settle in or be grasped. Sometimes I think truths come in the form of an insight. Sometimes they come in the form of like a intuitive recognition. But I think that one of the things that might be helpful is realizing that sometimes we can have a dysfunctional relationship with even something that we categorize as negative. Like we can have a dysfunctional relationship with pain, or for instance, when you see ants have some bug is eating your flower, there's somebody that goes to their garden, sees that bugs have attacked one of their flower, and they have a fit because it's not perfect now. You know what I mean? Whereas if you're liberated, even the things that are natural from the normal world categorized as negative it's not shackled by those rigid distinctions. Maybe.
Yes. There is, however, you see, there is what liberation is about. The liberation I talk about, liberation is the liberation of what I could call the sense of lack. And let's imagine that you get everything you want. You know, you have a lot of power. You want a Ferrari, bing, you have the Ferrari. You want to be filthy, wealthy, well, you get $100 million. Imagine you are in this scenario and you get everything you want, immediately you get it. And if you're smart enough, you're going to realize that there is going to be something missing always.
Existentially.
Always. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there are people who are very handsome, very young, very healthy, very wealthy, famous, and they kill themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
So, and it is this sense of lack that remains when, at least through your imagination, you have put yourself in a situation when you can have everything you want. This leftovers of lack is the most difficult, and it is a kind of sense of doom, which is there in the background of our life, and then that manifests, acts as all kinds of desires, all kinds of fears, like you're taking a gardening image, you know, it is the soil out of which all these plants grow, but which is a source for them, this impending doom. Sometimes it comes to us as fear of death, but it's not. It's fear of absolute disappearance, attachment to being alive. It's a desire. It's in fact seeking for eternal life that we believe, access to which is not allowed for us. And that's a predicament of the human condition. Animals, they don't worry about the morrow, right?
They would avoid being probably killed, but
definitely we too. Oh no, I'm not talking about this instinct.
Yeah.
No, this instinct is okay. It's wired in our.
Yeah.
But when these reactions of fear and desire are triggered, not in a natural way, but are triggered because they compensate this sense of lack. For instance, people eat way beyond what their body needs.
Yeah,
and they
everything way beyond. Everything's out of harmony.
One more thing. Okay, addictions. So then you cannot say that it is natural. You see, it's not natural. It's not natural to drink alcohol. You give alcohol to a dog, it's not going to drink it. It's not. There are many things that are not natural. So we cannot. So in the same sense, this instinct of self-preservation, which is normal, can be triggered for no good reason.
That fundamental doom.
If there is a clear and present danger, it's normal to have this reaction. If all of a sudden a snake comes out under your seat or under my seat, my adrenaline will jump. But when nothing is threatening, everything is normal, okay, this body is going to end at some point, that's okay, it's part of the system, right?
Yeah.
But if, in spite of the fact that everything is normal, right, I still feel this impending doom or this sense of lack, that's now Houston, we have a problem.
We need to explore this, what I'm calling fundamental doom, because
exactly.
It's like we can get into that, but it plays out in so many ways. Like with something like addiction, like sometimes you'll see somebody that's like you'll see absurd or odd or weird practices. Like somebody, you go, why do you have that like steel bar around your ankle? And they're like, it's my final link to the world. Everything else is everything else is free, but if I lose this little link around my ankle, I will disappear. Or so, it's like the sage that still smokes a pipe. That like it's so pernicious, and I think something like addiction, which habit and addiction is something I still have in my life. Like I've got pop right here, and other things that I won't go into, but I'm saying I think it equates to like a distraction because you're right. There's something very unnatural about drinking. So what kind of state do you got to be in that feels like relief to you? Like things have got to be so fundamentally off because addictions range from kind of innocuous to severe, and somebody that's doing something severe that's like now self-destructive, it seems like it's operating like a distraction, and a distraction maybe at the end of the day to the deepest problem there is, which is like an existential fundamental doom that we have. Like I was talking to somebody, and then I'll wrap it up, yesterday at a get together we were at, and they were like okay, but they were struggling with stuff that's common that everybody struggles. Everybody got like bills to pay and all this stuff. And I said, but freedom, there's a sense of freedom you can get by realizing temporariness, that it's not important that any one human identity lives forever. There's aliens in some distant planet that would pay good money for the you experience, to be surrounded by your family and to be on a deck in a backyard, all really temporary, have the you simulation. You know what I mean? But we can't always appreciate the limits that we have, or the freedoms that we have, or whatever it is that we happen to have, because there seems to be, at the end of the day, even if you can justify that, well, who cares if I don't succeed because it's all temporary anyway, the bottom of the pile, there seems to be a fundamental doom, or a fundamental survival-based doom. How do we get that thing? How do we mine that gold?
Yeah. So this sense of doom is the belief. So now I am answering your first question. What do you say? What's the basis of your teaching, right? It's that we believe that our reality, our real self, is vulnerable, mortal, dependent on external things or beings. So we believe basically that this consciousness, which is the reality which is hearing my words right now, is attached to and dependent on this human instrument, this body-mind. And that's the mother of all addictions, that's the mother of all problems. And another way to look at it, if we believe that we are this body, right? This body is part of this universe, right? Even if we believe that this awareness is dependent on this body is not a reality unto itself. This body is part of the universe. So the reality of this body, meaning our real self, if I am this body, my real self is the reality of this body. This body is not a reality unto itself. The reality of this body, the reality of the universe, is the same. So my real self is the self of the universe. That's why it's this sense of being a separate entity, which is a culprit, which is a party pooper, if you will. And all we have to do is realize when we experience psychological suffering, I'm not talking about a pain, a toothache, or then we go to the dentist, but psychological suffering, I don't know, about a breakup, about something we cannot get, we have to ask ourselves, would this suffering still be present if I didn't believe to be a separate person, a separate consciousness, you see? And the path towards this liberation is as follows. I mean, my version of it. The big name for that is self-inquiry. But there are various versions. My version is first you have to determine, am I my body or am I my consciousness, whatever it is that perceives the body and the world, whatever it is which is hearing my words in this moment, if by any chance this consciousness was not dependent on the body. Let's assume they are separate, right? Which one am I rather, the consciousness or the body? Let's assume I pass away and I go to the pearly gates and St. Peter tells me, you know, you have not been too good, you have not been too bad. So
You didn't believe in Jesus, so
the boss told me, for you, you have a choice. Either you keep your body or you keep your consciousness, but you cannot keep both in your case. What choose you?
the body.
What's come? Hey, you stupid! What's the use of it if you are not aware of anything? You see, so obviously you choose consciousness, right?
With no body,
Because
though.
because the body without consciousness, you won't be aware of anything, right? So you may as well not have one, right?
Can you pick neither?
That's not, I'm not the boss.
Yeah.
Okay, it's an image. This image we can helps us determine that if by any chance consciousness was not dependent on the body, what we are is consciousness, we are not the body. You see? And then the second step is to ask ourselves, and that's a long in investigation, to ask ourselves, what is the evidence that consciousness is dependent upon the body? You see, and then we come up with all kinds of proofs that we feel we have that consciousness is dependent upon the body. But as we take a closer look, we realize that this evidence we seem to have that consciousness is dependent upon the body is just hearsay from society, from our parents, from our teachers. And that in fact, when we take a closer look, it doesn't have four legs to stand on. It's like we believe in Santa Claus because our parents had told us, okay, it has a red coat, etc., etc. He gave us all the details. But later on, when we, in hindsight, revisit all the evidence we believe to have, it's very flimsy, you see, and then the belief in Santa Claus goes away. So it's the same here. We believe that this consciousness is dependent upon the body, but when we look more carefully, we realize, well, consciousness always comes first. Consciousness is always with me. The body is not there.
But the reason I picked the wrong stupid answer was like you're illustrating a point that I'm probably derailing a little bit by doubling down on this. But the reason I picked the body is because I'm seeing that it's like, from my perspective, it seems that the body and the consciousness, it doesn't, language can only do so much. They're just categories, but it's like, it wouldn't matter if I picked the body or the consciousness because the body is equivalent to the consciousness and the consciousness is equivalent to the body. There wouldn't be a distinction there, if that makes sense. Does anybody grasp what I'm trying to point at here? It's like the body could be made out of freaking sparkles for all we know, but to me they're equal things, like saying I would choose the consciousness or I would choose the body. Because all I have referenced, no person doesn't have reference to a body. There's no person there that's referencing something beyond the body, but but you could shake off your distinctions about it. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, body is just a word. Does that clear up why I kind of gave that sort of seemingly like obviously wrong answer approach? You know?
You you claim that the body is always present
To some degree, even if all I had was a brain.
in your experience.
Like it can be perceived beyond language, but we're using language here. So in the terms of language, it's like the body's couched within the same thing everything else is couched within. Like they're emergent together. Like the body is emergent with the flower. The body is emergent with the mouth that's talking. These things are all emergent spontaneously together. So yeah, there's no separance.
In your dream, where is your body when you dream?
Good question. Not at the forefront of my mind.
Yes. So, and besides also, how do we perceive the body? Through bodily sensations, right? Inside.
Yeah.
Through sense perception, when I see my hand, I see my thigh, or I see my body in the mirror, right? And through thoughts, when I use the word body, or I say arm, or I say these are thoughts, and I imagine my body. That's how I perceive my body. But the body is not always present. In the dream, I have a different body. I can fly in the dream, for instance. Or if someone hurts me in the dream, when I wake up, I have no trace of the wound. So, but the consciousness that was, if you will, the witness of the dream, is the same which is in the waking state. So, whatever is my reality experientially has to be always with me. So consciousness is a better candidate to be what I call I than the body. Because when we say I think, I refers to consciousness. When I say I perceive, consciousness. When I say I hear, I see, consciousness. When I say I think, consciousness. When I say I understand, consciousness. When I say I have a pain, the body. Pain in the,
I follow exactly what you're saying. All those other things regarding the body are in fluctuation. The consciousness is actually stable throughout everything.
Yes, stable. So our reality has to be always with us.
Yeah.
So, and also there is something else. Let me give you another, to approach that in a different way. Would you agree that when we dream, really, we are not aware that we are dreaming? In other words, if a tiger jumps at us, we are really afraid.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, when we dream, we are not aware that we are dreaming. Now, in the waking state, can we be absolutely sure that we are not dreaming whatever we perceive?
No.
Since when we dream, we are not aware that we are dreaming.
We're not even the same person. We take for granted that we're a whole other person sometimes. Yeah.
So this waking state could be another dream. But look, when we dream, we are aware that the tiger that was jumping at us and the body we had in the dream, which had wings, they were illusions.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But the fact that the dream was being perceived was not an illusion, you see?
Right. Yes.
In other words,
I do.
The consciousness of the dream is not an illusion, and it is the same consciousness of the waking states. It's precisely because it is the same consciousness that was in the dream that is present in the waking state that has this continuity that we say, okay, it's real. What was perceived in the dream was not real, but the consciousness, because it's the same, was the reality of both the dream and experientially, the consciousness is the reality also of the waking state. You see?
So I can see how that would even diffuse that would settle a lot of problems. But I got to ask kind of it's an oldie, but I think it's still, I think it might be relevant to that what you just explained there, which is, it just is what it is. So do you ever feel the fundamental dread sometimes? Like there's and I'll just pair it with this and I'll shut up. There's a story of a guy who was anxiety ridden and he wanted to get rid of anxiety. And so he figured out how to get rid of his anxiety only to go, oh, I miss anxiety. I wonder what it'd be like to feel anxiety again. And that sounds like almost I'm saying nothing. But what I'm saying is we've deduced that a lot of our problems is some like base level dread or base level doom or base level existential, like mammalian style fear. Do you ever I would believe that there's an enlightened person out there with Parkinson's. They can't stop shaking, or an enlightened person out there with some kind of disorder or physiological problem, or possibly even an addiction, or possibly even this or that. Do you, as somebody who like, I respect your opinions, man. I think you know exactly what you're talking about, but I'm curious, do you ever get the dread? Do you ever get that thing that animates all these other people sometimes, like animates them to take action or be reactive or be afraid? Does it ever happen anymore? Is there a place where it's like never happens again? Is that possible?
Here is my answer to this.
Sure.
We moved from a situation where we were unhappy 99% of the time to a position where we are without problem 99% of the time. So, already when we were miserable 99% of the time, without knowing that we were miserable, okay? Without realizing it.
Important caveat. That's important.
Yeah. So we were miserable. We were miserable in the relationship, and we were miserable in this, in that, right? And when we move from 99% being miserable to 99% the opposite, who cares of the 1% that remains?
Right. It's almost nothing in the light of this.
You see, because the way you phrase your question is, did you ever, let me tell you a joke. Let me tell you a joke. It's a priest and a rabbi in a plane. They are sitting next to each other, right? After a while, the priest asks the rabbi, I believe that in your religion you cannot eat pork. Is that true? And the rabbi said, yes. And the priest says, are you telling me that you never, ever ate pork? And the rabbi said, yeah, I must confess, when I was invited by Gentiles and there was pork and I transgressed. And the priest says, I see. And then there is silence. After 5 minutes, the rabbi asks the priest, tell me something. I believe that in your religion, you're not married, right? No. I believe that in your religion, you're not allowed to have sex unless you're married. And the priest says, yep. And the rabbi goes, are you telling me that you never, ever, and the priest says, yes, the flesh is weak, and I must confess that one day, this lady was coming to give flowers at the church, and I sinned. And then the rabbi said, I see. A lot better than pork, eh? So it has nothing to do with what we were saying.
Well, it might.
Okay.
It might be something to do in some way that I'm not allowed to
but see,
understand.
no, because you're presenting that. Have you ever, right now, feeling, of course, I'm human. You see, there are moments, but if I look in hindsight, I'm getting older and I'm old, and as I'm getting older, I'm getting happier. That's not the usual case.
Yeah.
I feel free. I feel unburdened. I'm happy with my life. You see, and that I can say. Am I going to say that I'm perfect? No, I'm not perfect. That's the beauty of it. I'm happy with what I have. I'm happy with what I have, and that's the goal. The goal is to be happy with what we have. The goal is not to be always.
100%. And, it's my kind of anal retentive control freak thing to be like, what's going on here? And maybe get lost in the mire of like details and precise. Like one thing you mentioned there was the distinction of the person who's miserable 99% of the time, doesn't know they're miserable. It's like that plays a role in all this too, because we're apt to behave a certain way. I was like, the appropriate response to a joke is to laugh, and I'm looking at it from a different
Yeah, you didn't
angle.
laugh. It was sorry.
James was. I was distracted looking at James. You're laughing before the joke's even said. So I'm distracted, and somebody might go, basket case. Then I got your number, Justin. You're a basket case. That display revealed everything I need to know, and maybe they got a point. But I'm saying that it is profound and shouldn't go to waste what you said. That is unbelievable. That is what you want, whether you like it or not. What you want is to 99% of the time feel good and 1% of the time maybe feel bad, versus somebody that 99% of the time feels bad, maybe doesn't even know they feel bad, and then 1% of the time feels good.
Because if someone tells you, that's not enough, and then I would tell them, okay, first get there, and then come back to me. You see? Because what happens also is there is this picture that a liberate one, a sage, whatever, has to be 100% perfect. 100%, but that doesn't exist. You know what happens? They are just human. Jesus was human. Ramana Maharshi was human. Buddha was human. After they pass away, the one who got the message really, they become happy 99% of the time, or 99.99%, and they just live their life and shut up. The ones that were not happy, they create a religion. And so every year, the dead sage who was at the origin of the religion get lifted up, jacked up by 1 meter. Right? After 2,000 years, the guy is 2 kilometers up. So he's absolutely perfect. You see what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
After the guy died, he was doing miracles, everything was perfect. He never sinned, he never had sex, Jesus never had sex, right?
Right. Except for that one time that they didn't add to the
you
scriptures.
See what I mean, come on.
Yeah, no one talks about Larry, who was twice as enlightened as even Jesus, and who he didn't make the cut. Like what I'm literally saying is I saw this video where the guy was talking about John the Baptist, and he said, John the Baptist was already somebody that was like a prophet and stuff like that, and Jesus felt compelled to get baptized by him, like Jesus said something like he was the greatest guy that ever exists, and he's a footnote essentially in the Bible. And so we can get kind of hung up, I think, on certain things like, well, what precise degree are you suffering to compared to that guy who only suffers a half of a fraction? And your joke was totally appropriate about the priest and the rabbi. I don't know. That's just my style. This is just my weird temperament to break things down this way.
Maybe we can like I like to ask spiritual teachers about consciousness because I feel like everyone kind of tells their definition of consciousness in their own way. And maybe we could unpack a little bit about consciousness. If it is it the rock bottom of all reality? And
Yeah.
what is it?
First, we, as you mentioned, first we have to come up with a definition which is clear and upon which we agree. Not because then we are. So my definition is consciousness is the reality which is hearing my words right now. Consciousness is the reality which is hearing my words right now. So let me unpack this. My words are being heard, right?
Apparently.
Not before, but now. So my words are being heard. That is beyond any doubt. The hearing is beyond any doubt. Therefore, there is an element of reality because it's beyond any doubt. It's absolutely certain. So it's true. It's absolutely true. There is an element of truth or of reality that attaches to consciousness, as I define it, that which perceives. This element of reality authorizes me to define consciousness as the reality that perceives. You see? So that's the first step. Consciousness is my reality. It is a reality that perceives. This definition is efficient because as I say it, you can verify it, you see? Otherwise, if I look in the Webster dictionary, I see consciousness and I see awareness. So I go to awareness and I say consciousness. So I go to consciousness. Okay, it's circular. Because if we remain on the level of words, it remains circular. We never touch the thing we are talking about. But here, because I say consciousness is the reality which is hearing my words right now, you can immediately verify that you are hearing my words, that you say it's me, and words are being heard, and there is something real to it because I cannot deny it. You see, so that's because when scientists talk about consciousness, many people, they talk about the content of consciousness, the thoughts, the perceptions, the sensations, the images in the mind. They never talk about the reality that perceives, and that's the big difference, the major difference.
It's weird that it all gets talked about in a discussion. It's weird that the subject of consciousness or liberation often gets its most stage time in the context of social stuff. Like I was saying one time, here's some things that can unenlighten you. Doom scrolling and involving yourself in the news, or going and spending a bunch of prolonged time with people who are going to pull you back into an identity that you're possessed by. But at the end of the day, it's like, what is true when everything's quiet and there's no one around, or no one to validate, or no one to this or that? We could talk about this till the cows come home. Like, sounds like I'm making maybe an obscure point, but I think it's relevant here, which is like who even all three of us are on here is a little different than who all three of us are outside of this realm. And what is true when no one's looking? What is true when there's no more opportunity to say the right thing or present it just the right way?
Oh, that's different, yeah.
This is what I'm saying now is probably sidelining somebody that's serious about enlightenment work or something like that. But between the three of us, I just noticed a phenomenon here that, sort of like you alluded to earlier, there are people that get enlightened and they go off and they become a shopkeeper, or they go off and they're a regular guy, But what we're doing here is something interesting. We're recording this conversation, and we're bringing forward a character, and that fascinates me because there's people that make it their business, and I totally believe that they're awakened, or I totally like they have the evidence of somebody that's awakened or liberated or enlightened, and yet they to do the interview thing or to do write the book or to have the conversation, something like a character reemerges, like something like an identity reemerges. Like there could be a pretension that happens here where it's like, oh, I got it and I am liberated, and so I'm not gonna I'm not gonna do shit anymore. I'm gonna like sit here and not even communicate. Um, what is the reality of that in all this? You know, is the like who takes center stage for the authority on these things if everybody's zenned out and chilled out and nobody's clamoring, nobody's even trying to get anyone to like their content, or no one's trying to really has even the basic agenda of making a point. You know, because some people literally make claims like, I have no agenda. There's not an agenda in there. I don't even know why I'm saying anything. You know, it was a very unformulated point that I made there, but I'm pointing to something. Can anyone help me figure out what I'm pointing to?
Well, it sounds like you're talking about a reemergence of like the ego, like willingly or knowingly allowing ego to somewhat take a place back in your life after maybe
And
self-realization.
the fact that we're swayed and compelled by packaging. And so, you know, there's a lot of things that are obvious. Like it's obvious, like, man, you suck socially. You know, you're not getting the cues. That's obvious for all to see. But at the end of the day, the kind of truth that we're pointing to regarding consciousness here, there still seems to be things that emerge, like that 1% of suffering that can still come up. You know, sometimes I think even that remainder suffering that happens is even that little suffering is interpreted different by the enlightened person. It's not a problem for them. But in lieu of this conversation that we've had and the approach that we've taken and the attempt that we've all had to make sense of it, what can be said about the remainder that's left that is brought forward in this discussion, that character that comes forward? There's no shoulds, is there? There's not a should about proper conduct that could be left,
Okay.
is there?
Two observations.
Sure.
We are different, like flowers have different colors and shapes. So some people, I'm more from the south of France, so my genetic, my form of expression, I move my hands a little more, etc. I am more emphatic. In other words, some people are quick, some people are slow. These qualities or these features of the human body-mind apparatus, they don't change, they are in our genes. It's part of the ego. There is a personality, but the problem is we use the word ego. But then, I don't use the word ego, because ego, then these features, they are being distorted by something else, which is ignorance. And ignorance is the belief to be a person, a separate individual. And that is as I said earlier, the party pooper, that is that which distorts. And if I can explain that, so the second point I want to make is this. Commonly, it is said by psychologists that we have three self-images. We have the way we believe to be. We have the way we believe to be, the way we want to appear to others, and the way others perceive us. But when we are free from the identification, what you see is what you get. That's a big difference. Everything, these three personalities, if you will, converge and they are one. What you see is what you get. I mean, I'm not trying to be calm and phlegmatic and Anglo-Saxon type of guy, you know. I'm not trying, what you see is what you get. Sometimes I use bad words, and that's it. Sometimes I am more learned because that's my education. I'm not trying to be one way or the other. You see, that's the thing that I don't care. Ultimately, as you get more free about the belief to be separate, you don't have to pretend.
Yeah.
You don't care. You see, I don't care. I don't.
And you don't even care that somebody's going, I think you do care. You know what I mean? Like for real. Like I'm saying, truly not caring is not caring that people are positive you do care. Like, I'm not making a smart alecky point. I'm agreeing with what you're saying. But true not caring is realizing people are going to make it what it is, whatever you are, what they will.
I don't care what people think of me.
Yeah.
You see, for instance, I don't care if they think I'm not realized. I don't care because for me, nobody is realized. You see, I'm not realized. Nobody is realized. Only the self is realized.
Yeah. Bombshell. Did you hear what he just said? We heard it here. Nobody's realized.
We are all the same consciousness. That's all I'm trying to say. We are all the big secret, because we go back to the consciousness I defined as that which is hearing my words right now. This reality, people believe that it is dependent upon the body, that it is limited. The open secret, the big secret is that we all share it, that this consciousness is the only reality there is. It is that which creates the world, that which creates the stars, that which creates all beings, you know. And it is so present to us that we are not even aware of it. Jesus says in the Thomas Gospel, you know the Thomas Gospel?
Yeah.
Because that's the Thomas Gospel is the best one, because it is about the teachings of Jesus, not that much about the story, about the biography. But not that the other ones are, they are very profound insight in the other ones, of course, also. But Jesus says in the Thomas Gospel, if you want to hide something from the crowd, you put it on the roof for all to see. Because the crowd, they are attracted by the windows, by the objects. They never look up.
Yeah.
They look for it everywhere.
We all have like opposite syndrome. It's a psychological principle, this tendency towards reversing psychology. There's another story where Osho goes, just to mess with a priest, he goes, hey, you should put up a sign on the side of that church because a bunch of people are peeing on the wall. And so the priest put a sign that says, do not pee on the wall. And the next day there's a lineup of people all pissing on the wall just to spite the sign. And not to distract from your absolutely awesome point, which is that is where you hide the thing, is where everybody can see. It's the consciousness that you're talking about for some people might just be a realization, oh shit, it's literally been here the whole goddamn time. I wasn't paying attention to it.
It's obvious to us, because if you ask someone, are you conscious? They would say, of course, yes, I am conscious. I hear you, I am conscious, yeah. But then they would say, so what? So
yeah.
because the fact that they say, yes, I am conscious, it's open for all beings to see. But they say, so what? Meaning they don't see the importance of it. They don't lift the head to really look at it. They don't see that it is their most precious good. You see, because look, let's say people believe some guy is filthy wealthy, right? Then he gets COVID. He is in the hospital intubated, right? Because he cannot breathe, right? And this guy, he would give all of his wealth, everything, just to be able to breathe, because he thinks, I mean, he is intubated, he doesn't think any longer, but you are getting my drift. Things that we have for free, the sunset, the light of the sun, breathing, just breathing, we take it for granted, right? But if it is removed from us, we suffer and we realize how precious it was.
Yeah.
The most important gifts that are made to us as humans are free. The rest, I mean, who cares about truffles or caviar? You see what I mean? If you were served caviar every day, you say, oh, you know what? I would like to have a potato, you see.
The best book of the Bible is the book of Thomas, and it's not in the canon. Like, I'm not going to pontificate on the conspiracy of that, but I'm saying the best book is the book of Thomas. And I didn't even know that verse was in it, I don't think, or I forgot it was if I did. It is. But that's a great book of the Bible. If you're a Christian, go read the book of Thomas.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I like that.
Well, Francis, I know we could keep talking. We're on a little bit of a time crunch today. I just want to say thank you so much for spending some time with us. One of the things we like to do at the end of these conversations is kind of give our guest the last say. So if you have like one overarching message that you just want to give out there to anyone who's watching this video, we'll give you that platform. And then maybe after you're done, you can let everyone know where they can find you, what you got going on, and all that good stuff.
Okay. There is only one reality, which we experience as this consciousness which is hearing my words right now. There is only one reality, eternal, happy, beautiful, intelligent, and it is that which is hearing my words right now, and because it is the only reality, we all share it. We all are the same consciousness. And this experience is love. That's it.
Wonderful.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Now maybe just let everyone know where they can find you, on what platforms and stuff and all that. And
YouTube, or just on the internet, do a search, and my website, francislucille.com, you'll see the events and everything.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This was awesome.
Thank you for having me.